Many foreign nationals seeking asylum in South Africa face numerous challenges. These include corruption, harassment and arbitrary arrests. These are sentiments shared by some foreigners at the Desmond Tutu Refugee Centre in Pretoria.
Yeah, the United Nations says 68.5 million people are forced to seek asylum around the world. Now, for more on this story, we are joined by Ofentse Setimo. He is actually in the Desmond Tutu Refugee Centre today and hearing the plight of refugees in South Africa. Ofentse, thank you very much indeed for your time. What's the latest with regards to World Refugee and where you are?
Well, from where I am, thank you so much for your time. From where I am, there's a hive of activity. There's been, even before the sun came out this morning, we saw some members of the Ethiopian community actually going into the Desmond Tutu Refugee Centre. Apparently, they work on days as the issue of language actually plays a role in order to process or facilitate some of the people who are coming here to get refugee or to get asylum. Now, as you alluded earlier, this is World Refugee Day. The United Nations General Assembly decided to celebrate the day from 2001 onwards. Prior to that, it was celebrated by the African continent alone, and other continents were celebrating it individually. But then the United Nations, as part of commemorating the 1951 Convention on the Status of Refugees, decided that the whole world as a collective should celebrate the day on the 20th of June, as is the case here today. Now, ever since we've been here since 6 o'clock, we heard some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that are actually available for refugees as they come here, but mostly it has been challenges on the issue of corruption, saying that they have to pay an amount of about 300 in order to gain access into the facility here at the Desmond Tutu Refugee Centre, and they're saying that 300 does not actually guarantee that you will actually get what you came here to do. So these are some of the challenges that they are actually facing when they come here to be processed as refugee seekers. Some of them, as you know, refugees are different. There are those that are asylum seekers, which is people who are claiming to be refugees, but their refugee status has not yet been determined by the country to which they have flown, they have fled to. So yes, these are some of the challenges that the people are actually facing here. There was also a gentleman who identified himself as the chairman of the Tshwane Consent Residents, and he was saying that he's not really pleased with the fact that these guys are getting documents for free. But as you know, the United Nations actually offers these documents for asylum and for refugee for free. Back to studio.
Yeah, Vince, in terms of some of the stories that you've been listening to for the better part of the morning, why are people leaving their countries and coming here to South Africa?
From what I heard, I spoke to a gentleman who actually came from Burundi, and he says around 1993 there was war in his country. So his mom, he was still a child at the time, so his mom took him and they fled to South Africa, and it's a couple of years. He's been here for over 10 years, I believe, for over 10 years. So in his case, it was an issue of war. And then you find a situation where, like a typical example is the old apartheid South Africa, where people were being persecuted for having a particular political view. So some people are actually fleeing their countries for being affiliated to a particular political affiliation, or for having a particular religious view, or for being of a particular race. Then you have people who actually flee their countries, or they don't actually run from their countries, but they don't have documentation to prove their nationality. As in the case of the Rohingya in Myanmar, you know that they've been living in Myanmar alongside the Buddhists for many years, but they are regarded as illegal immigrants, and they are deprived of government services because they do not have proper documentation that can actually declare them to be citizens of a particular nation. So those are some of the circumstances that the guys that we find here are in, that actually compel them to actually be in the country as we speak now. And from what I've searched, most of the people from the SADC countries are the ones that are actually coming to South Africa.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for your time. Good reporting there, Ofentse Setimo, down there at the Desmond Tutu Refugee Centre in Pretoria.